Oh,
Well, who's that cute little guy?
yeah, right? It's only fitting that we talk about moi
Well, I guess since it's so
here on
close
this.
to your birthday.
Yeah, so. But,
Friday.
Yeah. So, housekeeping this is the second coffee with Mom. And again, Mom.
Hi.
And
Good morning.
so, this week is my 49th birthday on Friday, as Mom just mentioned. So, thought, hey, what better topic to talk about than me? And you know I hate talking about me.
Oh, I know.
So we have a picture of me. I don't know how old I was and all that kind of stuff, but I'll put that up on the screen for everybody to see and everybody to laugh at.
Oh, it's cute.
Yeah,
You won't laugh.
Yeah. So, do you know how old I was in that?
I would say you were approximately 3 months old because this picture was actually taken in Chicago visiting Grandma Kovacs.
Oh, okay.
And I think the first time we went to Chicago, you were about 3 months old.
Oh, okay. From Rantoul, I gather, 3 months old, or had you
Yeah.
guys already? Had we?
No, we didn't move from Rantoul until you were almost 2.
Oh, okay. So I was born on Chanute Air Force Base, which is since closed down,
That's right.
in Rantoul, Illinois. Mm-hmm. So I'm a Yankee, and like the bumper sticker said, when we moved to Texas, it says I wasn't born in Texas, but I got there as fast as I could,
Right.
kind of thing.
That's it.
'Cause, yeah. So was Dad already in the Air Force when you met him?
Yes, he was
Okay.
in the Air Force when I met him
Yeah.
and when we got married.
Yeah.
He was stationed at Wright-Patterson when I met him.
Ohio,
In
right?
Ohio. Dayton, Ohio.
Right. Okay.
And I met his sister Beth through the good friend that I talked about at the wedding
the
picture.
Wayne,
The Swains.
Swains.
Uh-huh.
And,
And,
Wayne and Terrietta? No.
Marietta,
Yeah.
Terry.
Terry.
And Marietta formed, they were, that was, and I was living in Lexington and before I met
Right.
your dad. So Marietta had a little knitting group, and so Kurt's sister Beth was part of that group, and that's how I met him.
Oh, okay. Nice.
In Lexington, and then when we married, we lived in Dayton.
Okay. All right.
So I would say you're about 3 months old there.
Okay.
I'm going to say that because your hair isn't curly yet,
Ah,
and your hair became extremely curly.
yeah, I remember like in 4th grade when we were down in Texas that I had like, maybe at some point you'll see this person, but jack hair. I remember it being blonde and being,
Well, not really. You were never really
well, not blonde, but I mean bleached
Lighter.
because of down, lighter down in Texas. I
Yeah.
remember that. There's like
Yeah.
a 4th grade picture of me.
I might have
Thank you.
still have the picture of Marietta and Terry moved to Florida, and we went to visit them, and that's where you had your first haircut, was outside there in their backyard.
How'd that go?
Not bad. Not bad at all. I don't think you cried. I mean, it wasn't like we were scalping.
Yeah,
you.
yeah, right, yeah. Not like some of the kids I see
cutting
these
to
days.
some of the curls a little shorter.
Yeah.
So you looked more like a boy than a girl. So
Yeah, there's some story there that for some reason in my mind that we talk about, or at least I poke you often about how, you wanted a girl.
I wanted a girl, but not necessarily first.
Right, yeah.
I just wanted
okay.
a girl.
Oh, okay.
Another child.
Right, yeah, sure.
Not instead of.
Right, yeah. Yeah, why didn't that ever then?
Dad didn't want another. He had Matt, and so he thought 2, and he said no. We fit in an airplane just fine.
Oh.
And that was what he said.
yeah.
So 2 in the back and 2 in the front.
Right.
So that's kind of how it went.
Yeah. So was I like planned, or was this unplanned? I mean, did you guys like talk about it and
Oh yeah. Well, we did talk about having children,
Right.
and I said that You know, I could.
Basically, what I'm asking is this like a condom break thing? Is that what I am?
No,
Yep.
no, you are not. You are not a mistake. Actually, we talked about it because I was married when I was 30.
Right.
So it wasn't like I had a lot of time to think about
Sure,
it.
sure, right.
Back in those days, getting pregnant at a later age, excuse me, prompted a lot problems.
Right, sure.
And so we did talk about that
Right.
if I were going to get pregnant, I should get pregnant right away.
Right, sure.
But we didn't do anything to prevent it. Didn't do anything. Well, of course, we were doing things to get pregnant, but not making it a big deal.
Right.
But I did get pregnant right away.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway, you were not a mistake, and I was so happy when I got pregnant. It was just, and we went to. We flew to Chicago. I don't know. Well, I think we're just going to go visit.
Right.
We did that a lot.
Right.
Of course, there wasn't much to do in Rand, to Illinois. So we went to visit his folks, and I was upstairs, and Grandma was downstairs fixing breakfast, and the smell of the breakfast got to me.
Oh, just sent you over the edge.
And
huh?
I start barfing.
Right.
Well, Grandma, as I came down the stairs, and Grandma said, "Do you have something you want to tell us?" So they she suspected right away.
Sure,
I had morning sickness pretty badly.
She had 4, so.
Yeah, well, she'd been pregnant more than that.
Oh, really?
I think
Okay.
she had, I'm going to estimate she was pregnant at least, I know she miscarried at least 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she was pregnant a lot more than the live births.
Right, yeah, 'cause it was-
and I think that's why Grandpa thought that was enough.
Right, yeah. Just for the wear and tear on Grandma.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
Interesting.
anyway, so you were very much wanted. It was probably, having only been pregnant once, I would say that it was probably
100, that's what 100,
Yeah. Yeah.
Nailed it right off.
I did.
First time.
I mean, couldn't have asked for better. And I was pleased when you came out of the chute, and you were peeing all
Out of
over
the chute, not the closet.
You were peeing all over the doctor. Your little
That's it.
penis was just going like that. It was funny, and we were all laughing so hard. And that's when I said, Dr. Shoemaker, that was my obstetrician, and he said, "It's a boy," and I said, "Yeah, I think I can tell." But anyway, you came in the world making us all laugh.
Yeah. There
That's
it is.
you.
That's even a better story.
That was your.
You made my birthday right there.
There was your personality
is.
coming. All right.
Literally,
there.
you made my birthday.
So, anyway.
But I also remember a story about that the actual birth that was not easiest, or at least there was a time.
No,
there,
it wasn't.
Right?
It wasn't your birth.
Yeah.
It was the birth was. It wasn't. You were not. When I started having labor pains, the real time, I had some false labor pains and went to the hospital, and they sent me home.
Right. Okay.
Then about 5 o'clock in the morning, I started having them for real, and I was dilated. But you were not head down. You were turned on your side.
Oh, okay.
And so when I got to the hospital and they saw that, they gave me what's called a Pitocin drip, a pit drip, and it's to help the uterine muscles help turn the baby.
Oh, okay.
But because if you didn't turn, I was going to have a cesarean.
Right.
And so anyway, you cooperated.
After how long?
Oh, long enough, that's for sure. It was pretty agonizing, those pains, but they don't last that long. So, But anyway, I told the nurse, I said, your father and the doctor had gone down for coffee, which I thought was nice of them to leave me there and go have coffee. And so anyway, you told the nurse, I said, your father and the doctor had gone down for coffee, which I thought was nice of them to leave me there and go have coffee. And so anyway, I told the nurse, I said, I feel like I really got to push. And she said, no, don't push, don't push. I said, I can't help it, I've got to push.
Right.
And so anyway, she came over and she said, oh, I see why you have to push. I see the head. So she called the doctor right away, and they came up, and then there you were. So
Then start peeing over on everybody.
yeah, it was funny. That was hilarious. But even in my state at that time, and I watched you. They ask you, do you want to see the birth? I
Right.
said, yeah, I do. And so,
No wonder you have nightmares.
yeah, really. Yeah, no. It's such a phenomenal experience.
Right, yeah.
That there's nothing bad about it.
Right,
you know what I
sure.
mean? There's blood and
Yeah.
but it's just the idea that, my God, there is a person coming out of me, and so you kind of have this feeling of euphoria,
Right, yeah.
not
Sure.
anything else.
Or in my case, an alien.
But sometimes you act like one. No, it was, and then after that, it was great.
Yeah.
So it was not. I don't remember it as an unpleasant
Oh,
situation.
okay. Sure. I understand.
Some women do. They
Right.
think, "Oh my God, it was so," but
Yeah.
and it is just some. Unless you've had a baby, you
Right.
don't understand
Sure,
that
sure.
experience
Right.
of what it's like to create another person.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, I think that with your intelligence and your wonderful sense of humor, and you are kind,
Mm-hmm.
that you got the best of the two of us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
Because I am so nice and kind.
Yeah.
And your father was intelligent. But anyway. But yeah, and back then they kept you in the hospital.
Right.
Because if you had to have what's called an episiotomy, which is where they have to
Switch her up.
cut. They have to cut between the uterus and your backside,
Right, yeah.
your rectum,
To make room.
so
Space.
it'll stretch.
Right.
The head can come through.
Right.
Well, if you have that and they have to stitch you up, then you stay in the hospital a little bit longer. And one day I was walking down the hall and Dr. Shoemaker came. I said, "When can I go home?" And he said, when you don't waddle like a duck." He said, when you don't waddle like a duck, you can go home.
Medicine is such a precise art in science.
Yes. Yeah, when you don't waddle like a duck. And that's exactly how you walk. With your feet out like this, and because it hurt.
Right. That's funny. So with being 33,
Yes.
when you had me, was there then any post birth, depression or anything, or any for you? I mean,
No.
'Cause, I mean,
no,
here I am, so,
I was very fortunate. I didn't have any problems. A lot of times diabetes seems to be a problem too at that at that age. And I didn't have any physical problems, just getting healed from the birth. I had a little problem right at first breastfeeding, but I had a wonderful nurse in the hospital. She'd had like 6 kids, so she knew what she was talking. She nursed them all, so she knew what she. But for some reason, I was filling up with milk, but not able to release it.
Oh, okay.
And when the first time you came in to nurse, you couldn't seem to get the milk out.
Right.
And so that's frustrating for the baby,
Right,
of course.
yeah.
And anyway, so this nurse came in, it was late at night, and she said, "I want you to go in and I want you to take as hot a shower as possible and massage your breasts while you're in there." So I did, and then all of a sudden, man, I just started leaking like crazy. So you had no problem after that.
That's how this happened then from
Yeah, that.
Little mom to
Yes,
big boy.
Yeah. You got the height you got. I think. Well, evidently my biological father was tall, but
Right.
both of your grandma Kovacs's brothers were tall.
Right. Yeah, the crow side, right?
Yeah, so you may
Yeah.
have gotten
Sure. Yeah.
some of that
Yeah.
too. But yeah, and you were not your Aunt Cheryl, the one we taught, the lifelong friend.
Right.
Well, she came to the house right after you came home. You were just a few days old, and you were just so good with everybody. You know, you weren't fussy and stuff. And Matt was there. He went to Grandma Kovacs's house when they called and said I'd gone to the hospital. She went to get Matt, and then when I came home, they
Right.
didn't come to the hospital because kids couldn't visit in the hospital. And so when I came home, she brought Matt, and that's the trip where the Matt story about where he was telling her a story in the car, making up this story, and he was riding in the back seat, and he was up against the back of the front seat, I guess, and talking in her ear, like. And so anyway, Grandma Kovacs is driving and not paying the least bit of attention to this kid going on and on and on. And anyway, so he finishes his story and he says, "Now, Grandma, you tell it back to me."
Right.
It's like,
Right.
caught.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
Yeah. But anyway, so he was there when you were quite little, and he liked to sit. We would put him on the couch and he would hold you, and he was very good with you. And you would not cry, or you didn't cry a lot when you were a baby. You weren't fussy.
Right, yeah.
You had colic later on. I don't know. We'd already moved to Minnesota, so you probably were about 3 or 4 months when you, or maybe, probably about 3 or 4 months when you had colic, and we got you through that okay. But babies are fussy during that
Right,
time.
sure, yeah. So speaking of Minnesota then, because maybe at another coffee with Mom, we'll talk more about that house, because that's probably its own subject, that house in St. Paul. But there was a house in St. Paul, Minnesota before the big house, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, nice, a small, older house.
Right,
That's the one you love.
Was it yellow? Was it yellow?
No, it was brick.
It was brick? Okay.
It was,
I'm trying to...
But it was a 2-story, and it was cheap,
Right.
of course, which was the reason why we got
Yeah,
it.
because you guys were just out of the Air Force, right?
Well,
and
we were
Dad just started residency, right?
Yeah. And so he, we didn't have a whole lot of money. So anyway, it was a typical St. Paul old home in the old district.
Right.
But it was 2-story, and the only bathroom was upstairs.
No.
Which was not good.
Yeah, right.
Was there one in the basement? Because that's where company stayed when they came, because the basement was fixed up, and
okay.
It was like a small bedroom down
Yeah, because I don't remember that house at all.
It was we moved around Memorial Day time, and we were sitting at a card table in the kitchen because we didn't have our furniture yet. It was coming that day, I think, or anyway, it was Memorial Day, so the furniture probably wasn't coming. But I was sitting with my back to the window, and Kurt said, "You probably don't want to turn around." And I said, "Why not?" Or of course I wanted to turn around.
Right.
So anyway, I turned, and it's snowing.
Oh.
I said, "Do you think we've made a mistake here?"
Exactly,
snowing on Memorial Day?
Right, yeah.
That gave us a clue as to what the weather was going to be like.
Right,
And it was bad. But, that was...
Lots of funny lead-in then to, skipping ahead, but because in my mind, the story about how we went from then Minnesota to Texas, and since we're talking about me, it's my story, and you can then say, well, that's not necessarily how it went down. But I remember you had like a brown Mazda, like 4-door station wagon thingamajiggy. I can't remember what it was,
Yeah,
but it was something like that.
It was a Subaru.
Subaru, was it? Okay.
Forester. Is that Subaru?
Yeah, but this must have been like original or something, because it was, I mean, that was back in what?
Yeah, it was.
70.
Yeah,
right?
It was one of those little, like, very, I called it like a little station wagon.
Right, yeah. But I remember that in the snow with the plows, you got the snow, drifts. And I remember backing out of the second house, which, I mean, we'll talk about here now, but I remember you backing out, and then, of course, you had to either shovel to get through it or whatever. And I remember that night, I'll call it a confrontation instead of a chat with Dad, where I remember you just went, Kurt, I don't care where we go, but I'm tired of these fucking winters.
Yeah. Well,
And then you and I think, made a trip that summer.
I think I probably said that.
yeah. Well, there's a bear story where you say you didn't say things too, but no, I mean that, because then I think it was like that summer. Then after second grade, I think then we made a trip down to the Gulf Coast of Texas. So.
Well, it was. That you remember that story pretty well, because the plows would come during the night,
right,
and they would pile everything up along your driveway,
right,
and then it would snow, and then it would freeze. So it was ice, not really snow pile.
Sure, right.
And yes, I would carry a shovel and a bag of salt in the back of my car, and I thought, there has got to be a better way to live than this.
Right.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did have a discussion about it, but he was in a residency, so it wasn't like we could just pick up and move.
Right.
But I'm sorry. And he said, yeah, I think it's time to take a vacation.
Right.
So get away from here. So we were going to go to sunny Texas. So, Kurt, that was the friends that Papa Joe had in a medical school friend, and they interned together. The
Game warden. No.
Shorty, the Zids.
Oh, Zids, yeah, sorry.
And so they were living in Austin. And so he said, well, let's go down to Texas and you can meet the Zids. And I said, okay. So we went down, but we went to Corpus Christi because we were going to stay on Mustang Island. Coldest winter in 40 years in South Texas. So we went from Minnesota to Minnesota. I had packed shorts and bathing suits and stuff for you kids. And no jackets. So we had to go to Walmart and buy winter clothes. Thank God they had some. And you guys would go out and play on the sand dunes with your little Hot Wheel cars in the cold. You couldn't go in the water.
Right.
That was a disappointment. And of course, Kurt hunted a lot. He was gone during the day. He would go hunt with with the Zids, because that's how they intermingled. And so anyway, but we would get together with people then in the evenings and stuff. And I'll make a very long story short, they ended up wanting Kurt to come down there to practice medicine with them, because the other people hunting were also doctors. And Edwardson was his last name. I can't think what his first name was, but anyway, so Kurt came to the condo one day after duck hunting and mentioned this, said, they've asked me to come down here to practice. And I mean, that was a big decision because he was still in a residency and he wasn't finished with that. So that means he would go into family practice. So anyway, after we were down there for almost 2 weeks, and after the first week, then he kept talking about it. So finally I said, you sound serious about this. He said, I really am. He said, and I thought, by that time the weather had cleared up a little bit. not warm enough for you guys to swim, but
Right.
at least we didn't have to wear winter
Oh,
coats.
okay.
So that's how we ended up in Texas. He decided he would go into practice with them in Aransas Pass, which I thought was the armpit of the world, which it was.
It was. I mean,
And so anyway, that's a whole nother story about that move.
yeah, we might. Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about that house in St. Paul. Because I'll put a picture up so everybody can see, because I've already found the house. I mean, it's all over the internet because it's a historical house. It lists all the owners and history, and of course you guys are listed on there as the
Really?
owners. Oh, yeah. Because it's, one of the
You wanna
coal
what-
barons or
Oh,
whatever, cotton barons or what railroad barons or
railroad
whatever baron
barons.
house or whatever. So,
But ours was owned by the Mott family, which is the applesauce
Right, yeah,
people.
right.
And he was chairman of the board of General Motors.
right. So yeah.
He wasn't railroad, but
right.
he was
Because
transport.
obviously that house was obviously my favorite
I'm sure it
house
was.
growing up, because I mean it was, how big was it, 17,000 square feet, or how do you know it if you remember that? But how many
I think it was around 14,000.
yeah, how many bedrooms do you remember roughly? I mean, I guess probably
14 bedrooms.
14.
8 baths.
full basement. I remember that. I remember the tunnel. I think I was
full
the-
basement, full
I think I was the only one to go through the utility tunnel from the house to the garage.
to the garage.
But it had a carriage house down the hill that you
Yeah.
guys rented
Yeah,
out,
we
or the,
we had some friends fix it up and we rented it out. It was,
and that was like the size of.
I don't know,
our
but,
house.
well, they had 3 bedrooms. They made the horse stalls into bedrooms.
Right.
So there were at least 3 bedrooms down there. It was really, it got put in the St. Paul paper.
Well, yeah, you guys had like, right?
Excuse me.
Yep. You had like political things too. I mean, right? Did your mayor or something have a function, or somebody had something that was running or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't remember this,
The guy who owned the plywood company, I'm trying to think, Bill was his first name. It may come to me.
Okay.
But anyway, he was running for Senate.
Oh, Senate. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
State, not,
So, yeah.
not US.
Yeah.
And I can't, I was volunteering down at the Republican Center just
Okay.
for something to do
Right.
and stuff, to meet people. And that's how I got started in that. And yes, we had a little, we offered our house and they did everything. We didn't have to supply anything. All we did was supply the location. And they had, it was really neat because they had a little 3-string orchestra that set up on the balcony of the staircase and played, and they had a caterer come in. It was neat.
Okay,
A
cool.
neat function. But yeah, that was a cool house. Should we talk about how we ended up with that?
Sure.
Well, Kurt worked a lot of weekends while he was at the St. Paul Hospital Medical Center, which was the indigent center,
Okay.
as an orthopedic resident.
Okay.
So he worked a lot,
Right.
and he was gone on the weekends a lot. So my mother had come to visit, and I can't remember if nothing happened, but anyway, after she came to visit, I said, I know what it was. I think his parents wanted to come,
Oh,
but of course we couldn't have them stay with us. So I said, we really need to get a bigger place. So he said, well, you start looking. Yeah, no, you start. That is funny.
I mean, that's right there.
Yeah, we need a bigger place.
I'm done with these winters. Let's.
So we went from about 1,200 feet.
to
14,000.
14,000.
But anyway, so
Be careful what you ask for, huh?
yeah, exactly. Boy, is that the truth. So on the weekends, I would take you and Matt. We'd get in the car and we'd we'd go look at places. And sometimes we'd go in, but a lot of times we just kind of drive around and look at them, and I'd say, well, we had some prerequisites. It had to be in that same area because we loved that old historic area of St. Paul, which
Right,
was on
Summit Avenue, right?
Summit and Grand Avenue.
Right, that looked down, that had the hill,
Yes.
looked out over the cities.
So we wanted to
Twin
be
cities.
in there, and we wanted an older house like we had. So my travels were pretty limited as far as going out and looking, but I would look in the newspaper and see if there would be any ads for any houses in the area. And of course, I'd met some friends. The Christiansons lived down the street from us, and he was, was he a dentist? I don't think he was an MD. Maybe he was, but anyway, they had been there a little bit longer, so she kind of knew more about St. Paul than I did, and so she would kind of look for too. And because they had a little boy, and you and he became buddies, and so we would go out on the weekends and look at houses. And so one morning I was reading this article, and it had a thing in there about this house on Summit Avenue, and it was talking about didn't say how many, but anyway, so I called Kurt at the hospital. I said, you won't believe this ride. Oh, so I went by to see it.
Right.
Drove by, and I thought, oh my God, Kurt would love this place. So anyway, I called him and I said, there's this place on Summit Avenue, but I said, it's just a lark.
Right, yeah, you do it,
He said, well, call the realtor and let's go look at it. Oh boy. So I did. I said, he's not. And so anyway, I was talking to the realtor, and I said, asking him about this place on Summit Avenue, and I could tell he was very hesitant because he probably had a lot of calls, people wanting to see it.
because it's just historic and up on Summit.
And so anyway, and then I said, well, my husband's a physician, and I mean, the tone of the conversation changed.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right away.
Right.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And I didn't say, we have no money, he's a resident. So anyway, we made an appointment when Kurt could go. And of course, the minute Kurt saw it, he wanted it. It had copper gutters and downspouts and stuff, a slate roof that had just been replaced with slate from Italy or someplace. And so when we went in, it was just like being in a dreamland,
Right.
and it was in such good shape. And the first little house we had to have the kitchen kind of redone because it was so bad, so old. But I mean, everything. The kitchen was like 30 feet long. At the end of it was like you would call it a family area, I guess, because the kitchen itself was put together very well and very usable. Very you can utilize it.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what the word
right.
is.
Utilitarian.
Anyway, yeah,
I guess, maybe.
So anyway, he told us who owned the house, and so he didn't say. He said, do you want to make an offer? So we offered $55,000.
For the house that I'll put back on the screen for everybody to see.
And anyway, so we offered $55,000.
Because this was in
1970.
I mean, I can look it up on.
Wait a minute, you were 2.
Well, 73.
Yeah, 1973.
Okay.
So anyway, the only other people that were made an offer were 7 black brothers that all wanted a big house together.
Oh,
so they were actually wanting to buy the house together. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we were the only single family that was making an offer.
Okay.
And Mr. Mott was a very strong family man, but all of his kids lived out in the suburbs in their big, fine homes out there, estates out there.
Sure.
And they didn't want to live in the old part of St. Paul, so they didn't want the house.
Right.
And so he wanted it to go to a family.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people who had lived in that area, when they would die and pass away and didn't have anybody to leave their house to, they'd leave it to the church, because the Archbishop of St. Paul had the house next door to us.
Oh, okay.
And
Because at the end of the summit was the St. Paul Cathedral, right?
Yeah, that's exactly
Right,
right. So a lot of the houses along there were church owned.
Right.
Not
Right.
single families. So anyway, they accepted our offer. I mean, he had so much money. He wasn't selling the house
Right.
to make money.
Sure,
he was
sure.
wanting somebody who he thought would appreciate the house.
The
would
house,
get it, is
right.
what we were fortunate
Right.
enough to. That's
Which jump forward to 80 or whatever. That's really kind of then what the house was turned into, right? In the 1 acre side, they built like condos, and then they made the house into 3 apartments,
That's
right?
right.
The,
They
the
did
owner after, right?
After we, well,
I mean, they're big apartments, clearly, or townhomes, but I mean, the house
Yeah.
looks the same today, but roughly.
outside.
Yeah,
It looks
but it really
pretty-
went in, it
yeah.
got not chopped, but they built walls up to make it 3 like townhomes or something like that.
Three different apartments.
Right, yeah.
Now, I never did, Matt actually saw, he actually was in St. Paul and went to the
House, yeah.
and they let him in, and he actually saw it. I never saw it after, but
Put that on my list.
the Archbishop that lived next door,
Right.
he died.
Okay,
And the church sold the house because they had so many houses they didn't need it.
sure, right?
And the guy who bought that house ended up buying ours.
Oh, okay, okay, that sounds
Yeah.
somewhat, yeah.
And we did have the open lot that was next door. There used to be a house there, but it was torn down years and
Oh,
years
okay,
ago.
okay,
And we planted, and it was Kurt's, sort of his baby, a lot of bulbs like tulips and
Right, okay.
irises, and it was gorgeous.
Right.
People would come to drive by and had beautiful, beautiful elm trees, but we lost them all in the elm disease.
Oh, okay.
And Summit Avenue was lined with beautiful trees
Right.
that unfortunately they had to cut a lot of them down because of the disease.
right. Yeah, there was 2 stories of that side yard that I remember, which was, one is Hans, the German Wirehair pointer that we had. I remember he would basically run and, let's call it, hunt rabbit. I mean, many times he'd come back with rabbits out of
yeah.
that side yard. And there was another story with Matt. I remember we'd got Dad's golf clubs or something like that, and we're trying to hit Matt was, if I was probably, first and second grade, so, Matt was like 8 or 9, but I remember one time Matt hit a golf ball with a driver or, some wood, and he hit that thing clear out of the side yard. I mean, at 8,
Yeah.
9 years old, of course,
Yeah.
so.
Well, it was on the bluff. It was a
Right.
beautiful view
Right.
from the bluff. That's what they called it.
The bluff, okay.
The bluff. And you could see the Mississippi River, and it was a neat view. And yeah, you guys would hit golf. It's hard telling what you hit when they landed, but we also had a garden over there.
Right, yeah, I do
And we planted, one year we planted these pumpkins. They got huge. We even put one of them in a contest. It was so big.
Wow.
We didn't end up winning.
Right.
But, they were huge pumpkins. And it was a lot of work. That was a lot of work. And of course, a lot of the weeding went to me.
Right, yeah, sure. So, backtracking again to the state senate guy with the little quartet up on the stairs. Is that the stairs that you dropped me down and I got my divot in my head?
No, that was at the first
That was
little
at the
house.
first house? Okay.
First little
Yeah,
house,
yeah.
yes.
It won't show up on camera, but if you ever have the opportunity to rub the top of my head, you can see where my mother dropped me downstairs. That's my viewpoint. Obviously, she rotated and tried to save me and all that kind of stuff. Because you tripped, basically, really. You didn't drop me down. You tripped.
I was,
holding me.
And they were carpeted, and you know how you start to step and your foot slides on the edge of
Right.
the stair? That's what happened. My foot was like a ski.
Right.
And then I went down on I was the one that was hurt.
Right, yeah.
Not you. I did not.
Oh, yeah? Where's your...
Actually,
Where's your defect, huh? I got one.
on my tailbone. actually, the real story is I really did not drop you down
Yeah, I
the
know.
stairs.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I went down the stairs, and you were in my arms.
Right.
And when I got down to the last stair, you rolled out of my arms
Right.
onto the little landing because
Right.
there was like 2 more stairs.
Right.
And, oh yeah, I mean, I was,
That's when you
Frantic.
called Dad. I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
the story you say is you called Dad. It's like, I killed Mike or what?
yeah. That, I called him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was frantic.
I bet you were.
Yeah, I mean, you were crying, but you weren't like hurt.
Right, yeah, sure.
I guess you were hurt. You hit your head. I don't know. Yeah, I remember you had a knot on your head.
Yeah. It healed to be a divot.
Yeah. No, that was that little house
Yeah.
that we lived in.
All right. I'll see if I can find some pictures of these so that way when we're chatting about them here that people can then see. I know I can get a picture of I think there's a...
Now, I have a couple of pictures in that box of you as a baby that was taken at that first house, and then there's your first birthday. Was it when did we, let's see.
Well, first birthday we probably would have been back because you said we didn't go to St. Paul till...
No, we went to St. Paul when you were still a baby.
Oh, okay.
Because we went to St. Paul almost right after, let's see, would have been... Six months. We were in St. Paul when my dad died. That was in 71.
Oh, yeah, so I mean, that was August or so.
See, we moved
okay.
we moved from Dayton, Ohio because we thought Kurt got an assignment to go to Vietnam.
Right,
And and at that time I didn't know that I was pregnant.
right,
And I was going to go to Thailand.
right. I remember
and be
that
there.
story, yeah.
And then that's when all the political hoopla happened, and President Johnson had to back up and say, no, we didn't have any ground troops in Vietnam,
Right.
which was a big lie.
Right,
And so Kurt got new orders.
right.
And so he called me and said, we're going to Rantoul, and I thought it was India.
No,
I said, oh my God, we're going to India?
Yeah,
And he
right.
said, no, Illinois.
No.
Okay.
okay.
So, and so we kind of had to then back up everything.
Sure, absolutely.
A lot had happened in between there. There's a lot of stories here. But we had moved from that little house. No, that wasn't, no, I'm getting that mixed up. That was not Rantoul. When Kurt got his assignment to go to Vietnam, we were still in Wright-Patterson, and we were living in a house out in the, had a big,
off base.
yeah, had a huge backyard. And, because we had a dog at that time, and I was supposed to go get my second cholera shot. I'd already had the first one. And I went to get the second one, and Kurt called me at the doctor's and said, don't get it. Orders have been changed. We're not going abroad.
Right.
So that's how I found out
Okay.
about that. So that I'll have to kind of, when we're doing these, I'll think about some dates and times so I'm not sounding so unsure. But I don't know whether I can bring them up anyway, but we'll see. So we had a lot of different experiences while we were in the Air Force. It was a good time.
Right.
We met a lot of nice people.
Good.
Kurt became very good friends with the NCOs, the non-commissioned officers, and they would have some big parties, and we would get invited because he was their doc.
Right,
on
right. He
base.
was the flight surgeon, the doc, yeah.
And then we also became very good friends with a lot of the paramedics and the firemen. Because St. Paul was the hospital where they took accidents.
Oh, sure.
And Kurt would be in the ER as the orthopedic guy, and so we had a lot of friends through that, and we did a lot with them. The guy, and then through them, we met a plumber. And he was his name was, I can't think, just a minute. But anyway, Grandpa Kovacs could not remember his name and would call him Gus.
Oh.
That he did for years.
Good.
That wasn't his
Right.
name, but
Yeah,
that's
right.
what stuck.
Hey.
So we ended up calling him Gus.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we met a lot of neat people in St. Paul.
All right.
And that's where you and Matt, you're Mike.
Yeah.
That's where you and Matt became swimmers.
Right, yeah. Down at the club that was down the hill. And
we would walk down to the university club, and you were on their swim team.
right.
Yeah, and that's how you got so interested in swimming
So, yeah.
and diving.
Right, sure. Yep.
But-
Everything. Cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
All right. Well, I think next time for the third Coffee with Mom, since I think we're getting to the point now where maybe trip photos,
Okay.
or, maybe before, I was driving. So, cause I know we did a bunch of trips.
Yeah, we would travel. I just didn't like staying home.
Right, yeah, sure.
So I would put you and Matt in the car and
Right.
we'd take an overnight back. Sometimes we'd stay overnight, but usually they were day trips.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So maybe
Go explore.
I'll find some photos of that, and that can be for
Okay.
the future one. So, but yeah.
Thank you, darling.
Oh. So, all right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
See ya.